David Turner's life has been a testament to service and sacrifice. A seasoned military officer, David's commitment went beyond the battlefield to his home, where he faced his greatest challenges not as a soldier, but as a husband and father. At the center of his life was his beloved wife Rita, whose kindness and warmth anchored him amidst the chaos of military life. Together, they envisioned a future filled with happiness and family joys. However, their dreams took a sharp detour when they discovered Rita was pregnant. It should have been a joyful milestone, but it quickly turned into a series of medical emergencies that baffled their doctors. Despite the complications, David's optimism never wavered. He was a constant presence at Rita's side, providing support through every uncertain day of her pregnancy. As we continue, we'll see how these early challenges were only the beginning for David and Rita. Their journey through pregnancy and beyond reveals the depth of their resilience and the profound impact of the trials they endured together. Stay with us as we explore the turning points that shaped their lives and tested their spirits. The arrival of their son Derek should have been a joyous occasion, but instead it brought a new set of challenges. Derek was born with significant physical disabilities due to the complications during Rita's pregnancy. This sudden reality meant that their lives were now permanently altered. Every day brought with it the necessity for constant care, something neither David nor Rita were fully prepared for. David's unwavering commitment to his family was evident as he balanced his demanding military career with his new responsibilities at home. For Rita, however, the strain was even more pronounced. Her health, already compromised by a difficult pregnancy, began to deteriorate further under the stress of caring for Derek. Despite multiple treatments and doctor visits, her condition worsened, casting a shadow over the small family's life. In our next segment, we'll delve into the profound effects of Rita's declining health on the family, exploring how David managed his grief and the responsibilities of being a single parent after her tragic passing. Stay tuned as we uncover the resilience and sacrifices that define their lives during these trying times. Rita's battle with illness ended tragically when she passed away, leaving David to face the daunting task of raising Derek alone. This profound loss reshaped David's world. He was now a single father to a child who needed extensive daily care. The joy and light that Rita brought to their lives were gone, and in its place, a deep void settled that seemed almost insurmountable. During this challenging period, David found some support in Derek's maternal grandparents, who stepped in to help with their grandson's care. Their involvement provided crucial relief, yet the arrangement was far from perfect. The grandparents, though loving and dedicated, were aging and found the physical demands increasingly difficult to manage. As we continue, we'll see how David's military obligations complicated his home life even further. His career required him to be away frequently, adding to the guilt and pressure of not being present for Derek. Tune in to the next part of our story as we explore the impact of David's career on his ability to provide for his son and how he coped with these growing responsibilities. As David's military duties often took him far from home, the responsibility of caring for Derek primarily fell on the aging shoulders of his grandparents. This setup, while temporary and necessary, was far from ideal. David's absences added an extra layer of difficulty, as he constantly worried about Derek's well-being and whether his grandparents could handle the increasing demands. The situation reached a turning point when David met Stacy. She seemed to be a beacon of hope, a new partner who could help share the burdens of his complicated life. Stacy was understanding and appeared eager to take on the role of stepmother to Derek, offering David a chance to feel less alone in his struggles. In the next segment of our story, we will examine how the dynamic in David's household changed with Stacy's arrival. Watch as we uncover the shifts in family life and the initial signs of tension that began to surface, challenging the fragile stability David had tried to maintain. At first, Stacy's presence brought a semblance of normalcy and relief to David's life. She took an active role in caring for Derek, showing patience and commitment that reassured David. However, as time passed, the initial gloss of her supportive nature began to fade, revealing a different reality. Stacy's demeanor changed subtly. At first, her patience thinned, and her interactions with Derek, once filled with warmth, grew colder. This shift in behavior did not go unnoticed by Derek, who, despite his challenges, was acutely aware of the changing emotional climate around him. Stacy's growing resentment towards him was palpable, though she maintained a polite facade in David's presence. The tension in the house grew, creating an undercurrent of unease that Derek could feel but could not voice. Next, we will explore the escalation of this tension and the severe impact it had on Derek's life. Tune in as we delve deeper into the troubling changes within this family and the increasing challenges they face together. As the months rolled on, the strain between Stacy and Derek deepened. What started as subtle signs of irritation evolved into overt resentment and neglect. Stacy began to view Derek not just as a reminder of David's past, but as an obstacle to the life she had envisioned for herself. Her interactions with Derek became increasingly harsh and devoid of the initial kindness she had shown. This worsening relationship was largely hidden from David, who, consumed by his duties and frequent absences, believed Stacy's reassurances that any issues were merely growing pains in adjusting to their new family dynamic. Unbeknownst to him, Derek was experiencing a growing sense of isolation and fear, feeling the security he once felt with his father slip away. In our next update, we will cover the critical moment when David received news that would require him to leave for an extended mission, forcing him to make a difficult decision about Derek's care. Join us as we see how this decision plays out and the dire consequences it brings to the already fragile bonds within this family. The call for David to embark on a 6-month classified mission arrived at a critical juncture. Despite his reservations about leaving Derek in an increasingly tense home environment, David felt compelled by his duty. His decision to proceed with the mission placed Derek solely in Stacy's care, a decision that would have profound repercussions. In David's absence, the thin veil of civility that Stacy had maintained quickly dissolved. Her behavior towards Derek shifted dramatically, moving from passive-aggressive neglect to outright hostility and abuse. Derek, already vulnerable and dependent, found himself facing days that were marked not just by loneliness, but by an escalating fear of the person supposed to protect him. Our narrative will next reveal the depths of Stacy's cruelty that came to light during this period, shedding light on the alarming conditions Derek endured. Stay tuned as we explore the grim reality of Derek's life under Stacy's care and the desperate measures he took in his father's absence. During the months of David's mission, Stacy's treatment of Derek descended into severe cruelty. She withheld food and care, leaving Derek to fend for himself in ways no child should ever have to. Her indifference to his basic needs turned into malicious neglect, with Derek suffering both physically and emotionally under her watch. As Derek's health deteriorated, he tried to reach out to his father with messages of distress, hoping to alert him to the dire situation at home. Meanwhile, Stacy's resentment and anger towards Derek only intensified, viewing his attempts to communicate with David as threats to her own position in the household. Next, we will delve into the heart-wrenching consequences of Stacy's actions. We'll look at Derek's final desperate pleas for help, the evidence he managed to gather, and the tragic outcome of Stacy's unchecked abuse. Join us as we examine the pivotal moments that brought these hidden horrors to light. Derek's situation became increasingly desperate as Stacy's abusive behavior escalated unchecked. In a heartbreaking act of self-preservation, he managed to set up a hidden camera, capturing the stark reality of his mistreatment. His frail frame and weak pleas for help documented in the footage were a silent testimony to his suffering. Despite his deteriorating condition, Derek found the strength to send a final, urgent message to his father, detailing his plight and expressing his fear that he might not survive. This act of bravery was his last attempt to seek justice and protection from the escalating cruelty he faced daily. In the next part of our story, we explore the tragic end of Derek's struggle, the discovery of his fate, and the immediate aftermath. Stay tuned as we reveal the devastating impact of Stacy's actions and the irreversible changes they brought to the lives of everyone involved. The culmination of Derek's ordeal reached a tragic endpoint when he succumbed to the harsh conditions imposed by Stacy. His weakened body could no longer withstand the neglect and abuse. When David received Derek's messages and the heart-wrenching video evidence, it was already too late. The reality of his son's suffering and subsequent death shattered him completely. Upon David's emergency return home, he was confronted with the most grievous scene: Derek's lifeless body, evidence of Stacy's cruelty still palpable in the silent air. The shock and despair that followed were overwhelming, igniting a raw, consuming rage within David. In our upcoming segment, we will discuss the immediate fallout of this discovery, the confrontation with Stacy, and the irreversible decisions made in the heat of profound grief. Join us as we continue to unravel the devastating aftermath and the quest for justice in the wake of Derek's tragic death. In the aftermath of discovering his son's demise, David confronted Stacy with a mix of disbelief and fury. The initial calmness of his approach quickly gave way to an intense confrontation as he demanded answers from Stacy, who was caught attempting to hide Derek's body. The evidence on Derek's phone confirmed the worst of David's fears, revealing Stacy's brutal disregard for his son's well-being. Overcome by grief and anger, David acted on impulse, leading to Stacy's fatal shooting. This immediate, visceral reaction marked a shocking and violent end to Stacy's betrayal. The police arrived shortly after, summoned by David's own call, where he confessed to the act, accepting the full consequences of his response to the horror he had come home to. Next, we'll explore the legal and societal repercussions of these tragic events. We'll examine how the community and the legal system responded to the complex layers of grief, abuse, and vigilante justice that David's case presented. Stay tuned as we delve into the trial, public opinion, and the broader implications of seeking justice after such profound loss. David's trial captured national attention, highlighting a harrowing saga of child abuse and vigilante justice that polarized public opinion. In the courtroom, the evidence of Stacy's cruelty was undeniable, with the video footage and Derek's messages painting a bleak picture of his final days. The defense argued that David's actions, while illegal, were driven by an uncontrollable fury upon the realization of his son's suffering and death at the hands of his stepmother. The prosecution, however, maintained that no matter the circumstances, the law must apply equally, and premeditated murder could not be excused. After intense deliberations, the jury found David guilty of second-degree murder, sympathetic to his situation but bound by the letter of the law. He was sentenced to a significant term in prison, leaving the community and his remaining family to grapple with the outcomes of his actions. In the next update, we will look into the aftermath of the trial. We'll focus on how David's mother turned her grief into advocacy for child abuse awareness and how the community responded to the tragedy. Stay tuned as we examine the legacy of Derek's story and its impact on promoting change in child protection laws and awareness. Following the conclusion of the trial, David's mother emerged as a staunch advocate for child abuse prevention. She channeled her grief into raising awareness about the signs of abuse and the importance of community vigilance. Her efforts led to talks, workshops, and partnerships with local organizations aiming to protect children from similar fates. She dedicated herself to ensuring that Derek's suffering would lead to systemic changes and better safeguards for vulnerable children. Meanwhile, David served his sentence, his days marked by introspection and the burden of his actions. Inside prison, he focused on educating himself and other inmates about child welfare and parental responsibilities, hoping to turn his profound loss into a lesson for others. In our final segment, we will reflect on how Derek's memory continues to influence initiatives for child welfare and how the tragedy has sparked broader conversations about balancing justice with compassion in cases of extreme duress. Stay tuned as we explore the lasting impact of this heart-wrenching story on the community and beyond. Derek's story, marked by tragedy and injustice, became a catalyst for broader societal discourse on child welfare and parental accountability. The community, deeply affected by the details of his suffering, rallied for stronger protective measures and support systems for children with disabilities and their families. His legacy influenced local policy discussions and inspired legislative proposals aimed at closing gaps in the oversight of child welfare. David, from his prison cell, continued to honor Derek's memory by contributing to educational materials and participating in forums that discussed family dynamics and child safety. His personal transformation and advocacy, although born from a place of immense loss and regret, served as a testament to his commitment to making amends for the past. In conclusion, the profound impact of Derek's story extends beyond the immediate family to touch the lives of many, driving change and fostering a community commitment to preventing such tragedies. Through education, awareness, and a renewed focus on compassion and vigilance, Derek's short life continues to inspire meaningful action toward a safer future for all children. With the community galvanized by Derek's story, initiatives and programs focused on child safety and welfare began to take root. Seminars and workshops became more prevalent, equipping parents, educators, and caregivers with the tools and knowledge to recognize and act upon signs of abuse. The tragedy also sparked a broader movement toward enhancing the training of professionals involved in child welfare, from social workers to educators, ensuring they have the skills and resources to intervene effectively. In his continued quest for redemption, David fostered connections with advocacy groups from within prison, sharing his story as a cautionary tale about the critical importance of vigilance and empathy in parenting. His efforts, supported by his mother's relentless advocacy, helped to shift public perception and policy regarding child abuse and the responsibilities of step-parents and guardians. As we close this chapter, the legacy of Derek's life serves as a powerful reminder of the ripple effects one life can have on a community and the legal system. It underscores the importance of collective responsibility and the impact of individual actions on shaping a safer environment for the most vulnerable members of society. Through this ongoing dialogue and commitment to change, Derek's memory lives on, driving efforts to protect children and ensure that such tragedies are prevented in the future.